Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Gianluca Masi speaking on the behalf of the Virtual Telescope Project. I really want to thank you for joining this live feed, bringing to you the beauty of the moon on its very special night. Tonight, in fact, for just another edition, after more than 10 editions, by the way, we celebrate the International Observe the Moon Night. I'm very proud that the Virtual Telescope Project is officially a support of this initiative, which has been organized since the very beginning by NASA, in particular by those working there, just helping us understanding and unveiling the scientific importance as well as its beauty, of the moon. So first of all, I want to thank my friends and colleagues working at NASA, in particular those working just unveiling the importance of our moon, for organizing this truly important international event. It's for me a very special pleasure every time I can speak about the moon for a number of reasons, and this is why every time I try to schedule a live feed to bring to you the moon. But tonight, as it happened last year as well, the weather is quite uncertain here, so I could not set up my telescope in Rome just showing real-time images of the moon. And instead of cancelling this event, I really wanted to do something a bit different, but preserving, I hope, the spirit of the initiative. I will share with you images of the moon I captured over the last few years with our only natural satellite hanging above the legendary skyline of the Eternal City, Rome, the capital of Italy. I will be very happy to share this with you because over the years I really fell in love with the presence of the moon above the Eternal City. And this is why I try from time to time to combine the presence of the moon at any age that is just waning, waxing, full moon, whatever, above, for example, a very famous monument of Rome. In other words, I really love to couple the beauty of the night sky, in this case the moon, with the beauty of the city where I am lucky enough to live. And I hope that these images will bring to you the same excitement and the same wonder, when you really face something honestly extremely beautiful. Of course, the importance of the moon is absolute. It's a very important astronomical object, and we are not surprised that the moon still has many secrets we really want to understand and unveil. And I am particularly excited for this year edition for the International Observe the Moon Night, because we are just waiting, and it should happen in a matter of weeks, for the first test of the Artemis new fantastic space mission for Artemis 1. It was scheduled to leave our planet for its flight test a couple of times earlier, but for very important reasons, just to assure the safety and to optimize the return of this test, it has been just delayed, and we are waiting also for the weather to improve just in the region where the launch ramps are, And while waiting for this, and while waiting for the humans to go back to the moon, we have been there, just a bit more than half a century ago. But with our fantasy, we've been there, for many centuries, because the fascination of the moon, its presence in our artistic world is truly huge and strong. And this is what I really like and love to underline, because while of course as an astrophysicist I am the very first just underlining the scientific importance of the moon, and I really suggest you to learn more about Artemis, for example. And at the same time, I'm really attracted so strong by the cultural importance of the moon even outside the mere astronomical field. I'm attracted every time, for example, I see a moon just depicted on a painting, and especially when the presence in that painting is very realistic, because at that point I start asking myself if that moon was depicted with the real moon in front of the painter or not. And of course, these questions, while personal, could really help also better understanding a given artistic masterpiece. And there are literally tons of examples, and you can really surf, I mean, the internet just asking to your just asking to your system, looking for moon in painting, for example. Your search engine will very likely provide a lot of examples. So I also invite you to do this kind of exploration, even just exploring through the internet the presence of the moon in literature, in music, and so on. Personally, tonight I just want to concentrate on the timeless, eternal beauty of our natural satellite. And after all, that beauty is one of the reasons why we still want to understand about the moon. If we were not attracted, even from an aesthetic point of view, I'm pretty sure as an astronomer that the scientific return could be less than the actual one. So the beauty of the moon, the experience, I mean, the aesthetical experience we can really have looking at the moon at night is of course supporting the scientific endeavor. Because when you see something honestly beautiful, you are much more inspired to go inside and try to unveil details and mechanisms just behind the beauty which attracted you since the very first beginning. And for this reason, I really love using the International Observe the Moon Night as part of the Virtual Telescope project, which is an official supporter of the International Observe the Moon Night. I want to concentrate on this, the beauty of the moon in synergy with the beauty of the place where we live on this unique planet we call home, we call Earth. And I want to start right now to share with you a few of these images, just checking to see if everything is ready to run on my computer, and at least our time is not lost despite, as I said, the clouds and the uncertain weather we have in Rome. And this is the first image I want to share with you, friends. I captured this one a few years ago at sunset, and of course it is a full moon. I underline at sunset. The full moon is perhaps the moment we really love more to look at the moon, and because of the full moon condition, if you are on the Earth, the moon, the full moon, rises exactly in the opposite direction respect to the point where the sun is setting. And while the sun is setting, the full moon rises at the same time on the opposite direction. So at sunset, go just give your shoulders to the sun and the full moon will rise in front of you. And I really like the moon rise, the full moon rise, because it is that moment with the moon still very low above the horizons. You can hopefully hope to have the moon well aligned with an element of your panorama, of your city, of your country. And also because, of course, the full moon rising at sunset, you have plenty of residual light at twilight, and that light is still helping you to read the environment all around. Otherwise, just in the middle of the night, you have a very dark environment and a very bright, almost dazzling full moon, which is, at least for me, less impressive. I love just looking together the moon and the terrestrial environment where I live. And this is in Rome with the Altare della Patria, and I'm amazed to see on the mounts very distant little towns just there, and this perspective is very, very deep, and this is the magic of photography, of course. But here you should recognize a clear symbol of the eternal city, that is the Colosseum, as you can easily see. And this was taken in a far from being ideal evening, again the full moon rising at sunset, because that evening the sky was basically rainy, and I decided to go no matter that. And I was lucky because after preparing everything, just in that direction clouds opened and I could admire what I'm happy to share with you right now. This was outstanding, and I remember there were other people there and they looked at me with a lot of curiosity because they could not understand, because they didn't know that the moon was rising, and in a few minutes they understood. I was waiting for the queen of the night, the moon, the full moon rising just behind the shoulders of the very important, the legendary Colosseum. You can see the Colosseum here together with the moon. And again, I want to share this very elegant picture showing lunar total eclipse in 2018, the longest totality of the century. And I had the opportunity to organize a public event there inside the Parco Archeologico del Colosseo, the surrounding area, very important surrounding area around the Colosseum, and thousands of people could have a look thanks to telescopes, but also by naked eye, because you can really enjoy the total lunar eclipse by naked eye, just framed by those priceless, precious, important monuments like Ark of Constantine and the Colosseum itself. And this sequence is just showing to you just three very precious moments of the eclipse. That is the partial starting phase, the totality, and then the second part when the moon is slowly leaving the Earth's shadow. Truly an unforgettable experience. Again, the full moon rising behind the Colosseum, taken from Campidoglio, very important hill in Rome, just topping the Forum. If you've been in Rome, you should know this place, and perhaps you should recognize the view and hopefully have an idea of the place where I was while taking this picture. Here you have another clear icon of Rome, even if in principle it is abroad. That is the St. Peter Basilica, just in the Vatican City, which is of course a state, but of course it could be considered a symbol of Rome. And here I was at sunset, and just in the beautiful colors of the fresh evening, I could admire just a very sharp crescent, and I could even see, and you should see that as well, the Earthshine, very well. That is the faint light basically making visible the entire lunar disk, even if the region, the fraction of the moon directly lighted by the sun is very, very small and narrow. Here another incredible image, at least for me, again a full moon rising above Quirinale, the building where the president of Italy, of our republic, lives. And I was honestly happy that the Italian flag was showing beautifully just on the bottom of the lunar disk, and on the left you can recognize the bell tower and a couple of domes belonging to the Santa Maria Maggiore Basilica, where, by the way, there is a masterpiece by Lodovico Ciardi, better known as Cigoli, just reporting in a fresco the first Galilean moon presented in art. If you go there, just look for the fresco by Cigoli inside the Santa Maria Maggiore Basilica, and you will see how a moon just on the fresco is just showing the features that Galileo cool spot through the telescope, and the first time that something happened in the history of art. Again, a full moon rising, and this time you can easily recognize plenty of monuments. You have Castel Sant'Angelo just on the foreground with its orange color. Then you have the Altare della Patria behind. You should be able to recognize the Colosseum a bit in the shadow, the Pantheon Dome. You should recognize as well the Campidoglio, Palazzo Senatorio, Araceli, and many more that I don't list everything because very likely only people in Rome will recognize, but the Colosseum, the Pantheon, Castel Sant'Angelo, Altare della Patria, and Campidoglio, Palazzo Senatorio should be very clear to everyone knowing a bit of the city of Rome. Once again, another full moon rising. As I said, I concentrated a lot on the full moon because it is a nice occasion, a nice opportunity to use the fascination of the full moon. Everyone is attracted by the full moon, to do some good public outreach about astronomy. I really like the idea to use such an opportunity every time, as much as I can, as often as I can, just to tell about the moon, to tell about the sky, even from a city. You know, it is hard to enjoy a pure sky from the city because of the lights, because of light pollution. The moon likely is bright enough to be visible from everywhere, and this way you can have people just discovering that above the roofs of their buildings there is something we call the night sky. The moon is the first evidence of that treasure, and perhaps they can be just touched enough to just to enjoy and just to have a wish to go further and look with more attention, discovering more, and perhaps discovering that if it is hard to enjoy the night sky from the city, it is because there is too much light, and at that point they can just try to behave more correctly. In other words, introducing the sky, this is my opinion, the experience of the sky in a city is a good way just to increase awareness about light pollution and hopefully motivate people to keep that problem under control. I discovered there is a nice sky in the city. Yes. Would you like to see more? Yes. Okay. If you want to see more, you have to do this, this, and this, and perhaps those people will start doing that. This full moon was captured at dawn, and of course it is still a full moon, and if the full moon is visible on the opposite direction of the sun from the earth, if the full moon rises at sunset, the full moon sets at sunrise, and this was going to set just behind St. Peter Dome, and you see the dome is still in the shadow as dawn was quickly approaching, but the sun was still below the horizon, my friends. And this happened just minutes later, with the sun now hitting the legendary St. Peter Dome, and the moon, incredibly, actually this was the result of very accurate calculation I did. The moon is perfectly behind the lantern, the architectural element, the top of the dome. Again, St. Peter Basilica, this time with a very sharp crescent of moon at sunset with the unique colors, and again you can see the earthshine pretty well, something, the earthshine, which was investigated in a very spectacular way by the immortal genius of Leonardo da Vinci. Again, the moon sharp crescent is setting just beside Monte Mario Observatory, just dominating the city from Monte Mario Hill, and there is also a bright dot there, you can see it, and that was planet Mars. I really like this one. I must say, this image taken at sunset of very sharp moon is one of the pictures I really love more, and because of the color, because of the atmosphere, I don't know. And on the upper left you see also the bright star of Aldebaran in Taurus, the bull, a zodiacal constellation. Another full moon, this time setting down behind the Greek synagogue in Rome, and I really want to just underline how different are the greens you see here, just the color of the leaves. The one on the foreground are green, and the more is the distance, increasing the distance, you can easily see how the color of the leaves is just changing because of absorption by the atmosphere. It is a way to read the distance, the depth in this image. The same color, green, is just made different because the green color from the closer leaves is just suffering less the absorption of the atmosphere suffered by the more distant leaves. And this one was taken last spring, and I really love this one as well. You can recognize Trinità dei Monti on the bottom. This is honestly another image I really love, with a sharp moon taken. This one was taken at dawn, and you can see bright planets Venus, the brightest, and Jupiter at the end of April, when we were preparing for the famous planetary parade, something very likely you have been hearing about last spring, at least spring in the northern hemisphere, in particular in June, and planets were preparing to that. This one was taken in August, and I wanted to take the full moon setting, so at dawn, behind St. Peter Basilica, but the sky was pretty cloudy. But again, that limit turned out to be a bonus, at least for me. It is like a moon in a cage of clouds and trying to escape, and some of those images were to me extremely spectacular. Again, this one from July, and I always I'm obsessed by the idea to combine the beauty of Rome, as I told you, with the beauty of the city, and I'm never tired, and I have my scenic points where to go every time I want to admire these things. And again, here you can see Castel Sant'Angelo, Palazzo Senatorio, and Altare della Patria, Altar of Fatherland, and many other things. And now we are of course back. So I just want to thank you for your time looking ideally up from Rome, and despite the unstable and uncertain weather, we could have this live feed sharing the moon on its international Observe the Moon night. It was a privilege for me to have you here, friends. I hope that this experience was rewarding, even if just made using images from my archives, but the beauty of the moon, its importance are so huge and strong that I believe that no matter the media, you can still enjoy the importance of this very precious natural body. And I really hope you will find the time this evening to go out there and have your personal view of the moon. Very likely with your own eyes. You really don't need a telescope to join with your personal view, your personal glance at the moon tonight, the International Observe the Moon Night 2022, something organized by NASA, and in particular by the people working on the NASA space missions. And I want to thank all of them for organizing this every year, and for the privilege to have the Virtual Telescope Project acting officially as a supporter of the International Observe the Moon Night. That's all from Gianluca Masi, astrophysicist, Virtual Telescope Project from Rome. I really hope you had fun with us, so go out and have a couple of minutes at least looking up and enjoying the moon with your very own eyes. I'm looking forward to share with you again the beauty of the night sky. You can just subscribe the Virtual Telescope Project page on Facebook to learn where the new real-time live feed will be hosted. We are of course keeping an eye on Artemis because we will be showing through the telescope Artemis and Orion once they will be launched, while they will be on their way to the moon. Orion in particular. We are truly excited, and we are really wishing the very best to the people working on that very complex, very important mission and project like Artemis. That's all from Gianluca Masi. Happy International Observe the Moon Night, and of course keep enjoying the beauty of the night sky.